Combine is around the corner, and the Houston Texans, well, as many of the other 31 teams in the NFL Combine kickstarts what will be a long NFL draft process. So I'm here to tell you what are the three biggest needs for this Texans team heading into the Combine. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of TheLead Houston, where it's all Houston all the time. You won't find anybody with more passion speaking about your favorite Houston sports teams than this guy right here. Astros, Rockets, Texans. I try to do it all. So go down in the comment section. Let me know. What do you think are the biggest needs for this team entering the NFL Combine? Because the Combine is a good gateway into draft conversations. And we all know that free agency will be coming up soon. The Houston Texans, we all know they need three things, but there is one thing to start this conversation that they are in dire need of. The one thing that sidelined the Texans offense for the entire 2024 season, and that's an offensive line. Considering specifics, interior offensive line. And you want to get more specific than that, they need a damn guard. And they need somebody that can block. Okay, anybody that can block that isn't a traffic cone can go out there and do a better job than Shaq Mason, Kenyon Green, and the combination of Drew Scruggs / Jared Patterson. I'll throw Patterson in there because too many of y'all like him, and he's just an average to below average player that was only good enough to pass the test, and the test results were poor to begin with. The Houston Texans need an entire interior offensive line. The solutions here are Laramie Tunsil's your left tackle. Seems like the consensus around the fan base is that your left guard is going to be Titus Howard. Do I really like it? Not really, but with a full off season of him learning offensive guard, and maybe he could figure it out a little bit better than just throwing him into it mid-season or right before the season starts. Maybe it's a little better. Who knows? The center, question marks. It could be Juice Scruggs. It could be Jerry Patterson. It could be a free agent. It could be somebody in the draft. Right guard, as we know, Shaq Mason is still currently on this team, and unfortunately on this team. But I would expect him to get cut. I would expect him in some sort of capacity to be moved on from this team. So that immediately tells you that you need a right guard for this team. And then right tackle, as we all know, we saw the rookie Blake Fisher fill in last year for Titus Howard when they made the move for making Howard a left guard. Blake Fisher stepped in at right tackle. Thought he did okay. We'll see how it is moving into year two. With new offensive coordinator Nick Caley, the Houston Texans obviously are going to try to emphasize the reconstruction of this offensive line because, as we all know, it's one of the highest paid groups in the NFL, and they just did not produce the results that you were paying them to produce. And the Houston Texans now have an opportunity to reconstruct this, take it down, and get it down to the nuts and bolts again, and try to figure out what can they do to make this O-line really, really good. And that's the key for success. That's the key for CJ Stroud in order for him to not be the second most sacked quarterback in the NFL. Okay, so we got that under control. Gray Zabel is out there. Tyler Booker from Alabama. There's quite a few guys that you could take a look there. Second position that the Houston Texans need to be taking a look into, I'm going to go wide receiver. I'm going to stick on the offensive side of the ball because that was the problem for the 2024 Texans, was the offense. And yes, solving the OC issue is a check, but there is still other steps necessary in order to fully, completely put into a sentence the Houston Texans offense can be a top 15 offense in 2025. I need to see steps taken in order for me to get to that sentence. Wide receiver is another one. Wide receiver, currently you have Nico Collins. You don't know what's going on with Stephon Diggs. He could resign, he couldn't resign, so he's still up in the air. Robert Woods is a free agent. He could likely be gone. He did speak pretty highly about being in a Rams scheme of Nick Caley. Even though he did not work with Nick Caley, he is familiar with the verbiage and the diction surrounding a LA Rams Sean McVay scheme that Nick Caley is going to implement in some sort of modified capacity. So, with that being said, Robert Woods could be out, could be back. Who knows? Currently, you don't know about Tank Dell. Obviously, he's making some progress with his injuries, but we are pretty certain that he's going to be missing the entire year. So, you have, boom, Nico Collins, and I present to you the ragtag wide receiver group. John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson, they both had their opportunities, plenty of opportunity, and they just haven't met up to the standards that you want them to, and not even average wide receiver play. It's been anything but average, and it's been pretty piss poor, to be quite honest. The Texans wide receiver group needs depth, and it needs a legitimate wide receiver too. Now that Tank Dell would be out for the season, you would love to add somebody in free agency, but via the draft, I would not be shy away from either the Texans could be looking at Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State, Matthew Golden from Texas, Jack Beck, TCU. There is quite a few guys that are there. Savion Williams is also there. Trey Harris from Ole Miss. The Texans have some options there that they can play with at 25. I'm a growing fan of Emeka Egbuka and what he can do with CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans. I just think he fits the scheme really, really well. And I think it makes a lot of sense for him to be the pick at 25. But who knows, okay? Wide receiver is only two of the three positions that I think the Texans need to be attacking. But the third one, and I've been beating on the table for quite some time when it comes to this position for the Houston Texans, I want a damn DT. I do. And the reason why, I mean, we can talk about the Eagles beating the Chiefs and to replicate that defense, and the Houston Texans are so close to cloning that exact defense. They have Kamari Lassiter, Derek Stingley. You have a Jimmy Ward, even hurt, but when healthy, is a legitimate safety. Jalen Petrie is there. Kalen Bullock in his development into next year, going to be a good secondary that you can work with. The linebackers are set. You got Azeez Al-Shaair. You got Henry T in his continued development. He took a big step last year. And then Christian Harris is going to be fully healthy coming into this season. I expect a good year out of Christian Harris, number 48, Harris County. And then you go into the defensive line. And yes, it was a pretty good strength of this team with the edge rush duo of Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson, both guys leading the league and for duos in sacks. But the interior defensive line, at times when Foley Fatukasi wasn't in the game or was injured, you can see some cracks in between the interior D line. And the Houston Texans would be wise to finally inject that group with youth, with talent, and a blue chip prospect in the first round. Someone like a Walter Nolan would make the Miko Ryans ecstatic. Okay, the days of Tommy Taioga and Kurt Heinisch and even Foley Fatukasi, who played well here. He was cut from the Jaguars and did well here during his time. But even Sheldon Rankins, who got himself a big contract due to D'Amico Ryans, then gets cut. Okay, free agent. Don't want him, by the way. The Texans in the defensive tackle group, besides the Nico Autry, hell, even Mario Edwards was another guy that's just a veteran one-year deal, but they played outstanding. So just imagine if you're getting that kind of effort from guys that are 30, 31, undrafted, mid-tier guys, below average guys, and you're getting high effort and damn good football, just imagine if you injected that with a blue chip prospect like a Walter Nolan, like a Derek Harmon. Like, those are names that the Houston Texans should be taking a look at. Kenneth Grant. Like, these are names the Texans, that can just change the defense into another stratosphere, injecting it with some gobs of talent in the defensive line. Beefing up both sides of the football, I believe, is the main priority. This Houston Texans team would be wise to try to replicate what the Eagles did against the Chiefs. Hell, the Texans gave the Chiefs hell in the divisional game. They put havoc all over the game, but it just wasn't good enough. And yes, the offense is to blame, but hey, why not try to improve the defense as much as possible and make it special? The Eagles team is some team, man. They are different. But the Houston Texans were very close to replicating that defense this year. Imagine what they could do next year with a revamped defensive tackle group. I would be elated. D'Amico Ryans would be ecstatic. And this Houston Texans team, to me, those are the three biggest needs when you go into the combine. When you're taking a look at these guys and prospects, Texans fans, I'm looking at DT, wide receiver, offensive line. Those are the three positions I'm really paying attention to. Yes, halfback is going to be there. Tight end is going to also be there. You could always look at another safety. Never afraid to take a look at another linebacker. Never afraid to double dip in the wide receiver department or do the same in the offensive line sides of the ball. But ultimately, this Houston Texans team, to me, those are the three biggest needs entering the draft conversation in the NFL Combine. What do you say, Texans fans? Y'all let me know. What is the biggest needs for this team? Your three biggest needs. Again, O-line, wide receiver, DT. Y'all let me know if y'all agree or disagree down in the comment section. You know I'll reply. As always, guys, go Astros, go Rockets, go Texans. You have a blessed day.